The Silent Cry. The crystal gardens of Harmony Falls had sung their gentle melodies for over 3,000 years. Each morning, as the twin suns of the Zephyr system rose above the horizon, the crystalline structures would catch the light and transform it into music that filled the air with perfect harmony. The Zephyrians who tended these gardens moved with fluid grace, their translucent bodies shifting between shades of blue and silver as they communicated through resonant frequencies that humans would later describe as hauntingly beautiful. Elder Mira Solis stood at the center of the great crystal, her form pulsing with soft violet light as she conducted the morning meditation. Around her, thousands of her people joined in the harmonic prayer, their voices creating waves of sound that rippled through the crystal formations like water through stone. For the Zephyrians, this daily ritual was more than worship. It was how they maintained the delicate balance that kept their world at peace. But this morning the harmony was broken. The first sign of danger came as a discordant note that made every crystal in the garden crack slightly. Elder Mira's light flickered as she felt the disturbance in the planetary frequency. Something wrong was approaching their world, something that sang with violence and chaos. "Elder," came the urgent harmonic call from young crystal singer Zara, her blue form trembling with fear. The Sky Watchers report unknown vessels approaching from the void. Their resonance patterns are wrong. Mira extended her consciousness upward, touching the network of orbital crystals that monitored their system. What she felt made her light dim with horror. The approaching ships carried the psychic signature of creatures that reveled in destruction, beings whose very thoughts were tuned to frequencies of pain and domination. "Sound the gathering tone," Mira commanded, her harmonic voice carrying authority built over centuries of leadership. "All citizens to the deep shelters. Alert the Council of Resonance." As the warning frequencies spread across Harmony Falls, the Zephyrians began their first evacuation in recorded history. They had no weapons, no armies, no concept of warfare beyond the ancient stories their elders told of the time before Enlightenment. Their entire civilization was built on the principle that all conflicts could be resolved through perfect harmony. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The Crimson Horde fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a plague of metal locusts. Their ships were ugly, brutal things covered in spikes and adorned with the bones of conquered species. At their head flew the massive dreadnought, Soul Render, commanded by warlord Kazakh the Destroyer, a creature whose very existence was an affront to everything the Zephyrians believed in. Kazakh stood 8 feet tall, his body a patchwork of cybernetic implants and battle scars. His race, the Kreth, had evolved on a world where only the strong survived, and they had carried that philosophy to the stars. For 500 years, the Crimson Horde had swept across the galaxy, enslaving peaceful worlds and harvesting their resources to fuel their endless war machine. "Look at them," Kazakh growled to his bridge crew, studying the crystal cities below through the view screen. "Another race of weaklings who forgot how to fight. Their life crystals will power our war machines for decades." The Kreth had discovered that Zephyrian crystals could store and amplify psychic energy, making them perfect power sources for their most devastating weapons. A single crystal from an adult Zephyrian could fuel a planet-killer cannon. A crystal from an elder could power an entire fleet. "Begin the harvest," Kazakh commanded. "Kill the adults, keep the young ones alive until we drain their crystals. And remember, I want them to suffer. Fear makes the crystals more potent." The bombardment began without warning. Crimson Horde fighters screamed through Harmony Falls' atmosphere, their plasma cannons turning the crystal gardens into fields of molten glass. The beautiful harmonic structures that had stood for millennia crumbled under the assault, their death songs creating discordant wails that drove many Zephyrians mad with grief. Elder Mira led her people deeper into the shelter network, but she knew they could not hide forever. The Kreth had sensors that could detect crystal resonance patterns. It was only a matter of time before they were found. "Elder," called High Crystalline Orin, his ancient form flickering with desperation. "Perhaps we should attempt to communicate with them. All beings can be reached through proper harmonic frequencies." Mira's light pulsed with sadness. "I have tried, old friend. Their minds sing only with hatred and hunger. They cannot hear our calls for peace." Above them, the bombardment continued. Kreth dropships landed in the ruins of the cities, disgorging teams of harvesters equipped with crystal extraction tools. The screams of captured Zephyrians echoed through the harmonic network, each cry of pain adding to the growing discord that was tearing their world apart. In her desperation, Elder Mira made a decision that went against everything her people believed. For the first time in their species' history, the Zephyrians would ask for help from strangers. Moving to the emergency communication array deep in the shelter complex, Mira began composing a message unlike any her people had ever sent. Instead of the usual complex harmonic patterns they used for intersystem communication, she simplified it into basic mathematical sequences that any spacefaring species could understand. To any who received this transmission, she began, her voice heavy with sorrow. This is Elder Mira Solace of the Zephyrian Republic. Our world is under attack by a species that calls itself the Crimson Horde. They are harvesting our people's life crystals to power their weapons of war. We are a peaceful civilization with no military capability. We have no wealth to offer as payment, no strategic value to provide in return. We ask only for mercy, for someone to help us survive this darkness. Please, if there is any compassion left in the galaxy, hear our cry. The message broadcast across all frequencies, carried by the quantum communication network that connected the civilized worlds. Mira sent it again and again, hoping that somewhere among the stars, someone would care enough about strangers to risk helping them. Most species who received the message did exactly what Mira expected. They deleted it and went about their business. The galaxy was full of wars and suffering. Everyone had their own problems to worry about. But one message reached a small blue planet on the edge of the galaxy, a world that most civilizations had never heard of. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Martinez was pulling a double shift at the Cheyenne Mountain Deep Space Monitoring Station when the alien distress signal came through. She had been tracking routine shipping traffic between Earth's outer colonies when her console lit up with an unknown transmission pattern. "What the hell?" Sarah muttered, running the signal through every decoder they had. When the translation finally came through, she felt her blood run cold. Sarah had seen war before. She had served 2 tours in the Centauri border conflicts and another in the brutal campaign against the AI rebellion on Proxima Station. She knew what it meant when innocent people were being slaughtered for resources. "Henderson," she called to her communications officer, "get me General Steele at Earth Defense Command. Priority Alpha." Within minutes, the distress signal was playing in the Pentagon's most secure briefing room. General Marcus Steele, a man whose reputation for decisive action was legendary throughout the Earth Defense Force, listened to the translation with growing anger. "Sir," asked Colonel Janet Rivers, Steele's chief of staff, "what do we know about this Crimson Horde?" "Nothing good," replied Dr. Amanda Chen, the Defense Force's leading xenobiologist. "Our deep space scouts have reported encounters with their raiding fleets in the Outer Rim sectors. They appear to be a militaristic species that enslaves or destroys every civilization they encounter." General Steele stood and walked to the holographic star map that dominated the center of the room. "Distance to the Zephyr system? 17 light-years, sir. Our fastest ships could be there in 4 days." "And this Crimson Horde has how many ships?" Colonel Rivers consulted her intelligence reports. "Unknown, sir, but based on their attack pattern, we estimate at least 50 vessels currently in the Zephyr system." Steele nodded grimly. 50 ships was a significant force, but not insurmountable. "Scramble the 3rd Rapid Response Fleet, full combat loadout. I want Marines, medical teams, and enough firepower to make these Crimson Horde bastards regret they ever heard of humanity." "Sir," interjected Admiral Patricia Walsh, the Defense Force's senior naval commander, "with respect, we don't know anything about these Zephyrians. They could be lying about being peaceful. This could be a trap." Steele turned to face her, his expression hard as granite. "Admiral, 3 hours ago I watched my granddaughter play in her school's Peace Garden. She's 7 years old, and she believes the universe is full of good people who help each other when times get tough. I'll be damned if I'm going to let her grow up in a galaxy where innocent beings can scream for help and no one answers." He turned back to the star map, his voice carrying the authority of a man who had never lost a battle. "Besides, if it is a trap, then we'll spring it and show them what happens when someone tries to deceive the Earth Defense Force. Either way, we're going to Zephyr Prime." Within 6 hours, the 3rd Rapid Response Fleet was assembled and ready for departure. Led by the heavy cruiser Indomitable Spirit, the fleet consisted of 12 warships, 4 troop transports, 2 hospital ships, and enough firepower to level a small moon. Captain Sarah Martinez, recently promoted and given command of the destroyer Wolf's Fury, stood on her bridge as the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace. She thought about the fear she had heard in the alien elder's voice, the desperation of a people who had never known war until it came crashing down on them. "All ships report ready, Captain," announced her executive officer, Commander James Park. Sarah looked out at the stars, knowing that in 4 days they would either save an entire civilization or die trying. "Signal the fleet. Jump in 3, 2, 1. Mark." The third rapid response fleet disappeared into hyperspace, racing toward a world they had never seen to help people they had never met, carrying with them the hopes of a species that had never learned to fight but refused to let others suffer in silence. Behind them, Earth continued its steady rotation, unaware that its children were about to write another chapter in humanity's growing reputation as the galaxy's most unlikely protectors. In the deep monitoring stations, other distress signals waited to be discovered, other cries for help that would soon learn what it meant to have humanity answer their call. The Zephyrians' harmonic networks were failing under the continued assault, but Elder Mira held on to a single note of hope. Somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, help was coming. She didn't know what form it would take or whether it would be enough, but for the first time since the attacks began, she allowed herself to believe that her people might survive. In 4 days, the Crimson Horde would learn why the human military motto was swift, silent, deadly, and why no species in the galaxy had ever successfully invaded a world under human protection. Deathworlders unleashed. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyr system like avenging angels emerging from the void. Captain Sarah Martinez stood on the bridge of the Wolf's Fury, watching her tactical displays light up with enemy contacts. 53 Crimson Horde vessels were scattered throughout the system, most of them focused on the orbital bombardment of Harmony Falls. "Jesus Christ," whispered Commander Park as the images from the planet's surface appeared on their screens. The crystal cities that had once sparkled like jewels were now fields of molten glass. Smoke pillars rose from what had been gardens of living music. Sarah's jaw tightened. She had seen war crimes before, but something about the systematic destruction of such beauty filled her with cold rage. "Communications, get me General Steele." General Steele's weathered face appeared on the main screen, broadcasting from the bridge of the indomitable spirit. Behind him, Sarah could see the controlled chaos of a command center preparing for battle. "Captain Martinez, what's your tactical assessment?" "Sir, we're looking at a massacre down there. The Crimson Horde is using some kind of crystal extraction equipment on the survivors. From what I can see, they're literally draining the life force from these beings." Steele's expression darkened. In his 40 years of military service, he had learned to hate bullies above all else. "Fleet disposition?" "They're spread thin, sir. Most of their heavy hitters are in orbit, with lighter vessels conducting surface operations. They're not expecting resistance." "Good. Then let's give them a surprise they'll never forget." Steele's voice carried across the fleet communication channel. "All ships, this is General Steele. We are witnessing genocide in progress. Rules of engagement are weapons-free. Show these bastards what humanity thinks of species that prey on the innocent." Dr. Elena Vasquez, the fleet's chief xenobiologist, was monitoring the harmonic frequencies coming from the planet when she made a startling discovery. "General, I'm detecting organized communication patterns from the surface. The survivors are still coordinating their movements through some kind of crystalline network. Can we tap into it?" "I'm working on it, sir. Their communication method is unlike anything we've encountered. It's not electromagnetic or quantum-based. It appears to be pure harmonic resonance transmitted through crystalline structures." Meanwhile, Warlord Kazakh was studying his own sensors from the bridge of the Soul Render. The appearance of unknown ships had initially amused him. Another weak species come to die uselessly for strangers. "Analysis of the new arrivals," he growled to his tactical officer. "Unknown configuration, Warlord. 12 combat vessels, smaller support ships. Their energy signatures are unusual." Kazakh examined the sensor readings with growing interest. These ships radiated power in ways his instruments couldn't fully analyze. "Hail them. Let's see what kind of fools we're dealing with." The communication came through on standard galactic frequencies. Kazakh's image appeared on the bridge screens of every human ship, 8 feet of scarred brutality, cybernetic implants gleaming against mottled green skin. "Unknown vessels, this is Warlord Kazakh of the Crimson Horde. You have entered a war zone under Horde control. Depart immediately or be destroyed." General Steele stepped forward, his steel-gray eyes locked on the alien warlord. When he spoke, his voice was calm, professional, and absolutely terrifying in its certainty. "Warlord Kazakh, this is General Marcus Steele of the Earth Defense Force. You are conducting genocide against a peaceful civilization. You have exactly 10 minutes to cease all hostile operations and withdraw from this system. This is your only warning." Kazakh's laugh was like breaking glass. "Earth Defense Force? Never heard of you, little mammal. There are 53 Horde vessels in this system. You have 12. Your mathematics are poor." Steele's expression didn't change. "Warlord, you're about to learn why humans don't count ships. We count victories." The transmission ended. Kazakh turned to his fleet commander. These Earth creatures amuse me. Deploy hunter squadrons, capture their command ship intact. I want to question this Steele personally before I add his skull to my collection. But General Steele was already 3 moves ahead. Dr. Vasquez, have you established communication with the survivors? Yes, sir. I've managed to create a harmonic interface. There's an elder named Mira Solis who speaks for their government. Put her through. Elder Mira's translucent form appeared on the main screen, her violet light flickering with exhaustion and hope. When she spoke, her voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Are you truly here to help us, General Steele? We have waited so long in the darkness. Steele's expression softened slightly. Ma'am, the Earth Defense Force doesn't abandon people in need, but I need you to do something for us. Can your people identify which areas are clear of civilians? Most of our population is in the deep shelters beneath the Harmonic Peaks. The surface cities are lost, but the Kreth have not yet found our main refuges. Understood. Keep your people underground for the next 30 minutes. After that, we'll need your help. As the communication ended, Steele turned to Captain Martinez. Sarah, I'm giving you tactical command of the destroyer group. Your target is their ground forces. I want those extraction teams eliminated. Understood, sir. What about their fleet? Steele smiled grimly. Leave that to me. The battle began with the humans doing something that shocked every Kreth commander. They split up. In galactic warfare, fleets fought as unified formations. Dividing your forces was considered tactical suicide, but human military doctrine had been forged in the fires of Earth's deadliest conflicts, where survival depended on adaptation and unconventional thinking. Captain Martinez led her destroyer group in a high-speed approach toward the planet's surface, using the gravity well to accelerate beyond anything the Kreth thought possible. Her ships moved like sharks through water, fast and deadly. Incoming fighters, announced Commander Park. 20+ contacts, closing fast. Perfect, Sarah replied coldly. All ships, deploy point defense systems. Let's show them how humans deal with swarms. The Kreth fighters attacked in their traditional wave formation, expecting the humans to maneuver defensively. Instead, the human destroyers accelerated directly into the attack, their point defense systems creating walls of intersecting fire that turned the void into a killing field. Sergeant Rex Bulldozer Thompson watched the space battle from the drop bay of his assault transport. Around him, 200 human Marines prepared for planetary assault. Unlike the sleek, uniformed soldiers of most galactic militaries, the human Marines looked like they had been forged in a dozen different wars. Listen up, Marines, Thompson's voice carried over the noise of weapons being checked and armor being sealed. Intel says these Kreth bastards have been harvesting civilians. That means this is a rescue operation with extreme prejudice. Rules of engagement are simple. Anything that's not a crystal person gets a bullet. Questions? Sarge, called Corporal Maria Santos, a veteran of the Titan Rebellion. What if we encounter species we can't identify? Good question, Santos. If it's shooting at you, shoot back. If it's running away from the bad guys, protect it. If you're not sure, ask it politely to surrender before you blow its head off. The Marines laughed, but they understood. Human military doctrine emphasized protecting non-combatants, even enemy non-combatants. It was a philosophy that most galactic species found incomprehensible. As the destroyer group broke through the Kreth fighter screen, Captain Martinez got her first clear look at the planet's surface. What she saw made her stomach turn. Massive crystal extraction rigs dotted the landscape like mechanical spiders, their drilling arms reaching deep into the harmonic structures. Around each rig, she could see the distinctive heat signatures of Zephyrian lifeforms, but they were fading. All ships' priority targets are the extraction rigs. Secondary targets are any Kreth ground forces. Remember, we have friendlies down there, so watch your fire. The human destroyers screamed through Harmony Fall's atmosphere like falling stars, their weapon systems locked onto the extraction sites. The Kreth ground forces, focused on their harvest operations, barely had time to look up before the sky fell on them. Captain Martinez's ship led the attack on the largest extraction site, where nearly 100 Zephyrians were being held in crystalline cages while machines slowly drained their life force. The Wolf's Fury dropped to barely 50 meters above the surface, its railguns turning Kreth vehicles into scrap metal. Marines away! Thompson's voice crackled over the communication channel as drop pods launched from the human ships like deadly seeds. High crystalline Zara had been hiding in the ruins of her family's harmonic grove when the sky erupted in fire and thunder. She watched in amazement as strange metal pods slammed into the ground around the extraction site, disgorging beings that looked almost familiar, but moved with deadly purpose. The humans were bipedal like many galactic species, but there was something different about them. They moved through the toxic smoke and radiation-soaked battlefield as if such conditions were normal. Their weapons made sharp cracking sounds that seemed to punch through Kreth armor with ease. Sergeant Thompson's squad moved through the extraction site with methodical precision. The Kreth guards, expecting only to deal with pacifist crystal beings, were completely unprepared for opponents who fought back with coordinated tactics and superior firepower. "Tango down," reported Corporal Santos as her rifle eliminated a Kreth overseer. "I've got eyes on the prisoner cages." Thompson examined the crystalline structures holding the Zephyrians. The beings inside pulsed with weak light, their life forces nearly drained. "Santos, get the medic over here. Chen, secure the perimeter. Wilson, start figuring out how to open these things without killing anyone." Dr. Elena Vasquez had accompanied the Marine assault specifically to help with alien rescue operations. She approached the nearest cage, her portable laboratory already analyzing the crystalline structure. "Sergeant, these aren't just prisons. They're designed to resonate at specific frequencies that seem to harvest the life energy from these beings. Can you shut them down?" "I think so, but I need to understand their harmonic patterns first." Elena activated her translation device and approached one of the captive Zephyrians. "Hello, my name is Dr. Elena Vasquez. We're here to help you. Can you tell me how these cages work?" The Zephyrian's light flickered weakly. When it spoke, its voice was like distant music. You are the warriors who answered Elder Mira's call?" "Yes. Can you help us free your people?" "The resonance frequency must be inverted. But be careful. Wrong frequency will kill us all." Elena worked frantically with her equipment while the Marines held the perimeter. Around the extraction site, the sounds of battle continued as human forces systematically dismantled the Kreth ground operations. High crystalline Zara crept closer to observe these strange warriors. One of them, a female with dark skin and kind eyes, was using unknown technology to free the prisoners. Another, a large male with mechanical implants, was treating wounded Zephyrians with surprising gentleness despite his fearsome appearance. "What manner of beings are you?" Zara asked in her harmonic language. Corporal Santos looked up from bandaging a wounded crystal being. Her translation device converted her words into harmonics. "We're humans, from a place called Earth. Don't worry, kid. You're safe now. But why do you risk your lives for strangers? What do you gain from helping us?" Santos paused in her work, considering the question. "How do you explain to a being from a peaceful world that some species fight not for conquest or profit, but simply because it's the right thing to do?" "Where we come from," Santos said finally, "we learned a long time ago that if you don't stand up for people who can't protect themselves, pretty soon there's nobody left to stand up for you." Meanwhile, in space above, General Steele was demonstrating why the human fleet's small size didn't matter. Instead of engaging the Kreth fleet in traditional formation combat, he had ordered his ships to use what human strategists called wolf pack tactics. The heavy cruiser, Indomitable Spirit, led a coordinated assault on the Kreth flagship while smaller human vessels struck at supply ships and support craft. The humans fought like no species the Kreth had ever encountered, unpredictable, aggressive, and seemingly immune to fear. Warlord Kazakh watched his carefully organized fleet structure crumble under the human assault. These Earth warriors didn't follow any recognized galactic military doctrine. They struck hard, faded away, then appeared somewhere else entirely. "Warlord," reported his tactical officer, "we've lost 17 ships and most of our ground forces. These humans fight like—" "Like what?" Kazakh snarled. "Like demons, sir. They show no fear of death. They protect their wounded at all costs, and their weapons technology is far beyond anything in our databases." Kazakh studied the tactical display showing his dwindling forces. Pride warred with pragmatism in his mind. The Crimson Horde had never retreated from a battle, but they had also never faced opponents like these humans. "Analysis of their home world," he demanded. The ship's science officer consulted his databases with trembling hands. "Sir, according to Galactic Survey data, Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. Gravity 1.2 standard, toxic atmosphere, extreme weather patterns, and— Sir, it says here that the dominant species evolved from persistence hunters." Kazakh felt ice form in his veins. Persistence hunters, the most feared evolutionary path in the galaxy. Species that literally ran their prey to death across vast distances, never stopping, never giving up. "No wonder they fight so well," he muttered. "They come from a world that tried to kill them every day." On the planet's surface, Dr. Vasquez finally cracked the harmonic code for the extraction cages. One by one, the crystalline prisons opened, releasing Zephyrians who pulsed with gratitude and amazement. "You have saved us," whispered the eldest prisoner, her light flickering between blue and gold. "But why? We have nothing to offer in return." Dr. Vasquez helped the fragile being to her feet, marveling at how the alien's form seemed to shift between solid and energy states. "Ma'am, where humans come from, you don't need a reason to help people in trouble. It's just what you do." As the rescued Zephyrians were loaded onto human medical transports, High Crystalline Zara approached Sergeant Thompson. The young being's light pulsed with curiosity despite her trauma. "Warrior Thompson, may I ask you something?" "Sure, kid. What's on your mind?" "Your people fight with such violence, yet you are gentle with us. How do you balance these two natures?" Thompson considered the question while watching his Marines carefully lift wounded Zephyrians into medical pods. "I guess it's like this, kid. We're violent to protect what's peaceful. We learned a long time ago that if you want to keep beautiful things safe, sometimes you have to be willing to get ugly with the people who want to destroy them." Above them, the space battle was reaching its conclusion. General Steele's tactical genius had reduced the Kreth fleet to less than 20 vessels, while human losses remained minimal. The Soul Render hung dead in space, its engines crippled by precision strikes from human railguns. "General," reported Captain Martinez, "ground operations are complete. All extraction sites have been neutralized, and we've rescued over 400 Zephyrian civilians." "Casualties?" "3 wounded Marines, no fatalities. The Kreth ground forces were completely unprepared for our tactics." Steele nodded with satisfaction. "Signal the surviving Kreth vessels. Tell them they have one chance to surrender and face trial for war crimes, or they can try to run and see how far they get." Warlord Kazak received the human ultimatum with the bitter taste of defeat in his mouth. His mighty Crimson Horde had been shattered by a handful of ships from a world he'd never heard of. But as he prepared to respond, his sensors detected something that made his warrior's heart sink even further. More human ships were dropping out of hyperspace. Many more. "Warlord," his tactical officer reported with barely controlled panic. "Additional human vessels entering the system. Count is over 100 ships, sir." General Steele's voice came over the communication channel, calm and professional as ever. "Warlord Kazak, this is the Earth Defense Force 4th and 5th Fleets. You now have 3 minutes to surrender unconditionally. After that, we stop being polite." Kazak looked around his damaged bridge at his terrified crew. The Crimson Horde had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, but they had never faced anything like humanity. These beings fought not for conquest or resources, but for principles that made them more dangerous than any empire. "All Horde vessels," he announced with the weight of defeat crushing his voice, "stand down and prepare to surrender." As the last Kreth ships powered down their weapons, Elder Mira Solis emerged from the deep shelters to see her world free for the first time in days. The Crystal Gardens were gone. The harmonic cities lay in ruins, but her people were alive. General Steele met her at the edge of what had been Harmony Falls, his weathered face showing the exhaustion of a commander who had just fought a perfect battle. "Elder Mira, I'm sorry we couldn't arrive sooner. The damage to your world." Mira's light pulsed with colors that Dr. Vasquez was learning meant profound gratitude. "General Steele, you answered a call for help from complete strangers, risked your lives for beings you had never met. In our harmonic traditions, there is no word for such selflessness." Steele looked out over the recovering survivors, human medics working alongside Zephyrian healers, Marines helping rebuild damaged structures. "Ma'am, where I come from, we call it being human." As the rescue operations continued, neither the humans nor the Zephyrians realized that their actions were being watched by other galactic civilizations. Word was spreading through the communication networks that a new species had emerged from the rim worlds. One that would cross the galaxy to protect peaceful beings from aggression. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had arrived, and the age of unchallenged tyranny was ending. The price of peace. 6 months after the liberation of Harmony Falls, the Zephyr system had become something unprecedented in galactic history. A joint military and cultural exchange between two radically different species. What had begun as a rescue mission had evolved into humanity's first permanent alliance with an alien civilization. Admiral Catherine Storm Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the new Earth-Zephyrian Joint Command Station, watching human construction ships work alongside Zephyrian crystal shapers to rebuild the orbital defenses. The massive structure combined human engineering with Zephyrian harmonic technology, creating something that neither species could have built alone. "Admiral," reported her aide, Commander Lisa Park, We're receiving priority communications from Earth Command. The Galactic Council has agreed to meet with our diplomatic delegation. Rodriguez nodded, though her attention remained focused on the construction outside. The Galactic Council had ignored humanity's existence for decades, dismissing Earth as an irrelevant rim world. But word of what happened to the Crimson Horde had spread throughout known space, and suddenly, everyone wanted to know about these mysterious humans. Any word from our deep space reconnaissance teams? Yes, ma'am, and it's not good news. Commander Park activated the holographic display that dominated the station's war room. Red markers appeared across multiple star systems, each one representing a confirmed Crimson Horde base or support facility. Intelligence estimates that we only destroyed about 10% of their total forces at Harmony Falls. The main Horde fleet is still out there, and according to intercepted communications, they're planning something called the Final Cleansing. Rodriguez studied the tactical display with the experienced eye of someone who had spent 30 years in the Earth Defense Force. The pattern of Horde bases suggested a strategy far more sophisticated than random raiding. They're not just pirates, she realized. They're preparing for systematic extermination on a galactic scale. Meanwhile, in the rebuilt harmonic gardens of Harmony Falls, Dr. Elena Vasquez was making discoveries that would change both species forever. Working with Crystal Master Harmony, the ancient Zephyrian leader who had emerged from deep meditation to help with the reconstruction, she had learned to combine human technology with Zephyrian harmonic abilities. The resonance frequencies your people use aren't just communication, Elena explained to Elder Mira during their daily research session. They're actually manipulating quantum field interactions. With the right technological interface, we could... Could what, Dr. Vasquez? Mira's light pulsed with curiosity. Since the liberation, many Zephyrians had begun learning human concepts, and Mira had shown particular interest in human scientific methods. We could create weapons that disable rather than destroy. Healing systems that work on any biological pattern, communication networks that connect minds across galactic distances. Elena paused, realizing the implications of what she was suggesting. Your people's abilities combined with human technology could revolutionize civilization. But Crystal Master Harmony, whose ancient form contained the wisdom of millennia, pulsed with gentle warning. Dr. Vasquez, such power must be used carefully. The path between protection and domination is narrower than most species realize. The old being's caution proved prescient. Deep in the unexplored regions of the galaxy, Overlord Vex of the Crimson Horde was planning exactly the kind of domination that Crystal Master Harmony feared. Unlike Warlord Kazak, who had been driven by simple brutality, Vex was a strategic genius who understood that the emergence of humanity represented an existential threat to Horde supremacy. Analysis complete, reported Chief Scientist Maltrak from his laboratory aboard the massive Horde dreadnought Galaxy's End. These humans represent the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. Overlord Vex, a towering figure whose cybernetic modifications had replaced most of his original biology, studied the tactical assessment with cold calculation. Explain. They evolved on what galactic classification terms a nightmare world. Conditions so hostile that simply surviving required constant warfare against their environment. This produced a species with three critical characteristics: technological adaptability, strategic thinking, and most dangerously, cooperative instincts that extend beyond their own kind. Vex processed this information while reviewing footage from the Battle of Harmony Falls. The human tactics were unlike anything in Horde databases. They had turned a rescue mission into a complete military victory using principles that most galactic species would consider impossible. Recommendation? Complete extermination, sir. The humans cannot be conquered, enslaved, or negotiated with. Their protective instincts make them incompatible with Horde expansion. As long as they exist, our empire will face resistance. Vex turned to his fleet commander, Admiral Vrock. Status of the final cleansing preparations? All attack fleets are in position, sir. 1,000 ships are ready to simultaneously strike every major human colony and allied world. The attack on Earth itself will be led by our planet-killer vessels. And the new weapon? Maltrak's scarred features twisted into what might have been a smile. The harmonic destructor is ready, sir. By analyzing captured Zephyrian technology, we've created a weapon that uses their own resonance frequencies against them. Every crystal being in a target system will die instantly when it's activated. Vex studied the galaxy map showing human colonies in allied worlds. Red arrows indicated the planned simultaneous attacks that would eliminate humanity and its allies in a single coordinated strike. Execute final cleansing in 72 hours. This time, there will be no survivors. But Overlord Vex had made a critical error in his analysis of human capabilities. He had studied human tactics and technology, but he had failed to understand human intelligence gathering. For months, human deep space reconnaissance teams had been tracking Horde movements, and what they discovered had sent shockwaves through Earth Command. Captain Marcus Chen of the stealth reconnaissance ship Silent Runner transmitted his final report from the edge of Horde space with hands that trembled slightly. What he had witnessed at the Horde's primary staging area had shaken even his veteran composure. Earth Command, this is Silent Runner, confirming previous intelligence estimates were low by a factor of 10. Horde forces number at least 10,000 ships, including multiple planet-killer vessels. They're positioning for simultaneous strikes on all human colonies and allied worlds. Admiral Rodriguez received the intelligence report in the Joint Command Station's secure briefing room. Around the table sat the combined leadership of both species, human military commanders and Zephyrian crystal masters working together to analyze an unprecedented threat. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored crystal beings, Rodriguez began, we're facing the largest military threat in recorded galactic history. The Crimson Horde isn't just planning to attack us, they're planning to exterminate every non-Horde species in the galaxy. General Steele, who had been promoted to overall commander of human galactic operations, studied the tactical displays with professional interest. Force ratio analysis? Approximately 50-1 against us, sir, reported Colonel Rivers. Even with our technological advantages, those numbers are overwhelming. Elder Mira's light flickered with patterns that Dr. Vasquez had learned indicated deep concern. General Steele, perhaps we should consider evacuation. My people have learned much about survival through retreat. But Steele's expression showed the stubborn determination that had made him legendary throughout the Earth Defense Force. With respect, Elder Mira, humanity doesn't run from bullies. We stop them. Crystal Master Harmony pulsed with ancient wisdom. General Steele, courage is admirable, but wisdom suggests discretion when facing impossible odds. Crystal Master, Steele replied carefully, what would you consider possible odds? The ancient being considered the question for several moments before responding. If we could somehow reduce their numerical advantage, but such a thing would require a miracle of strategy. Steele smiled grimly. Then it's a good thing humans specialize in impossible victories. What followed was 72 hours of the most intensive military planning in human history. Working around the clock, human strategists and Zephyrian crystal masters developed a battle plan that would have been dismissed as fantasy by any conventional military analyst. The key breakthrough came from Dr. Vasquez's research into combined human-Zephyrian technology. By linking human quantum computers with Zephyrian harmonic networks, they had created a communication system that could coordinate military operations across galactic distances in real time. We can't match their numbers, General Steele explained to the assembled fleet commanders. But we can make numbers irrelevant. Instead of fighting 10,000 ships with our few hundred, we're going to force them to fight us one system at a time. Admiral Rodriguez outlined the operational plan. Using the combined harmonic quantum network, we'll coordinate simultaneous strikes on their supply bases, command centers, and strategic facilities. While their main fleets are spread out attacking empty colonies, we'll destroy their ability to sustain long-term operations. And if they adapt? Asked Captain Martinez, now commanding a squadron of the new human Zephyrian hybrid warships. Then we adapt faster, Steele replied simply. That's what humans do. The final cleansing began exactly as Overlord Vex had planned. Massive Horde fleets struck at human colonies throughout the galaxy, expecting to find defenseless civilian populations. Instead, they found empty worlds and automated defense systems that fought with tactical programs developed by human strategists. Sir, reported Admiral Rock from his flagship, all primary targets appear to have been evacuated. We're encountering only minimal resistance. Overlord Vex studied the tactical reports with growing unease. The humans had somehow anticipated his strategy and evacuated their populations ahead of the attacks. But where had they gone? The answer came as alarms began sounding throughout Horde space. Human strike teams, guided by Zephyrian harmonic navigation and equipped with technology that neither species could have created alone, struck simultaneously at every major Horde facility in the galaxy. Captain Chen, now commanding a joint human-Zephyrian stealth assault team, led the attack on the Horde's primary weapon research facility. Using harmonic cloaking technology, his ships approached undetected until they were within weapons range. All teams, this is Chen. Remember, our target is the harmonic destructor. We cannot allow them to complete that weapon. The assault was swift and brutal. Human Marines and Zephyrian Crystal Shapers worked together with terrifying efficiency. Where human weapons couldn't penetrate Horde defenses, Zephyrian harmonic abilities disrupted enemy equipment. Where Zephyrian techniques proved insufficient, human firepower solved the problem permanently. Across the galaxy, similar strikes were occurring simultaneously. Human tactical genius combined with Zephyrian wisdom and their shared commitment to protecting innocent life created a military force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Overlord Vex watched his carefully constructed empire crumble in a matter of hours. Supply depots that had taken decades to build were destroyed by coordinated strikes. Command centers that had controlled thousands of ships fell to teams of fewer than 100 attackers. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his science officer. "Sir, they're using some kind of instantaneous communication system. Every human and Zephyrian unit in the galaxy is coordinating perfectly. It's like fighting a single massive organism with millions of eyes and hands." But the greatest shock came when the Horde fleet at Earth received intelligence about what they were actually attacking. Instead of humanity's home world, they found themselves facing the combined fleets of every species that humanity had befriended, protected, or allied with over the past 6 months. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the massive joint command vessel, Harmony's Shield, watching as representatives from dozens of species worked together to coordinate the defense of Earth. The Zephyrians had used their harmonic networks to contact every civilization that had ever received human aid, and the response had been overwhelming. "Admiral," reported her communications officer, "we're receiving surrender requests from Horde fleet commanders throughout the galaxy. Their command structure has collapsed." Rodriguez nodded, but her attention was focused on a single message coming from the edge of human space. Overlord Vex himself was requesting terms for surrender. "Put him through." Vex's image appeared on the main screen, a being whose cybernetic modifications couldn't hide the defeat in his remaining organic features. "Admiral Rodriguez, I am Overlord Vex of the Crimson Horde. I wish to discuss terms for cessation of hostilities." "Overlord Vex," Rodriguez replied calmly, "the Earth Defense Force doesn't negotiate with war criminals. However, we will accept your unconditional surrender and guarantee that you and your people will be treated according to galactic law." "And what guarantee do we have that you won't simply exterminate us as we plan to do to you?" Rodriguez considered the question seriously. Around her, representatives from dozens of species waited to hear how humanity would handle victory over an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries. "Overlord Vex, the fundamental difference between humans and the Crimson Horde is simple. You fight to destroy, we fight to protect. Surrender now, and your people will be given the chance to learn the difference." The surrender of the Crimson Horde marked the end of one era and the beginning of another. Within a year, the joint Human-Zephyrian alliance had grown into a galactic confederation dedicated to mutual protection and peaceful cooperation. Elder Mira stood with Admiral Rodriguez on the observation deck of the new Galactic Defense Headquarters, watching ships from hundreds of different species working together to build a network of mutual protection that spanned known space. "Admiral Rodriguez," Mira said, her harmonic voice carrying new notes of confidence and hope, "when my people first called for help, we never imagined that our cry would lead to this." Rodriguez smiled, watching a human construction crew work alongside insectoid engineers and energy-based life forms to build a communications relay that would help protect a dozen different civilizations. "Elder Mira, humans have a saying, no good deed goes unpunished. We thought we were just answering a distress call. Instead, we found our place in the galaxy." Crystal Master Harmony, now serving as the Confederation's chief wisdom advisor, pulsed with ancient understanding. "Perhaps, Admiral, the galaxy was waiting for a species that would choose to protect rather than conquer. The universe has a way of providing what is needed when it is needed most." As the three beings watched ships from across the galaxy work together to build a better future, none of them noticed the small probe launching from the edge of the system. Its destination was unknown space beyond the galactic rim, carrying a message to civilizations that had not yet been discovered. The message was simple. "To any who receive this transmission, this is the Galactic Defense Confederation. If you are in trouble, if you are under attack, if you need help of any kind, call us. We will answer." The age of unchallenged tyranny was over. The age of galactic cooperation had begun. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now serving as the Confederation's chief science officer, was working in her laboratory when she received the first response to their broadcast message. The signal came from a region of space so distant that it had taken 3 months to reach them, even traveling faster than light through the quantum relay network. "Admiral Rodriguez," Elena called over the communication system, "you need to see this." Within minutes, the senior leadership of the Galactic Defense Confederation had gathered in the main communications center. The message, when translated, was both heartbreaking and familiar. "This is Archon Kell of the Ethereal Collective. Our worlds are under attack by a species that calls itself the Void Devourers. They consume entire planets, leaving nothing but empty space behind. We are a peaceful civilization with no military capability. If anyone receives this message, please help us. We are running out of places to hide." General Steele, now serving as the Confederation's supreme military commander, studied the star charts showing the location of the signal's origin. It was beyond the edge of known space, in a region that would take their fastest ships 2 weeks to reach. "Distance and tactical assessment?" he asked his staff. 37 light-years from the nearest Confederation outpost," reported Colonel Rivers. "Unknown enemy capabilities, unknown force strength. We'd be going in blind." Elder Mira's light pulsed with the harmonics that indicated determination mixed with compassion. "General Steele, these ethereal beings sound much like my people did 6 months ago. Peaceful, helpless, crying out for someone to care." "And look how that turned out," Steele replied with a slight smile. "Admiral Rodriguez, how many ships can we spare for a long-range rescue mission?" Rodriguez consulted her tactical displays. "The Fifth Fleet is available for deep space operations. 50 ships, including medical and construction vessels." "Make it 100, Steele decided. "If we're going to do this, we do it right." Crystal Master Harmony pulsed with ancient wisdom. "General, each time we extend our protection to new species, we also extend our responsibilities. Are we prepared for the galaxy to see us as the guardians of all peaceful civilizations?" Steele considered the question seriously. In less than a year, humanity had gone from being unknown rimworlders to the military backbone of a galactic confederation. The responsibilities were staggering, but the alternative was to let innocent beings suffer while having the power to help them. "Crystal Master, when I was young, my grandfather told me something I've never forgotten. He said, 'Son, the price of peace is eternal vigilance, and the price of safety is the willingness to fight for strangers.' I think it's time the galaxy learned that some prices are worth paying." The ethereal rescue fleet launched from the Confederation's main base 3 days later. Leading the expedition was Admiral Rodriguez, aboard her flagship, Unity's Promise, accompanied by a mixed crew of humans, Zephyrians, and representatives from a dozen other Confederation species. Captain Sarah Martinez, now commanding the heavy cruiser Defender's Oath, stood on her bridge as the fleet jumped to hyperspace. Around her, officers from 4 different species worked together with the seamless cooperation that had become the Confederation's trademark. "Ma'am," reported her tactical officer, a crystalline being from the Zephyrian military exchange program. "Long-range sensors are detecting massive spatial distortions in the ethereal system. Whatever these void devourers are doing, it's affecting the fabric of space itself." 2 weeks later, the Confederation fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the ethereal system to witness something that defied comprehension. Where planets should have been, there were only empty spheres of twisted spacetime. The Void Devourers weren't just destroying worlds, they were erasing them from existence. "Jesus Christ," whispered Commander Park from his station aboard Admiral Rodriguez's flagship. "They're not just killing planets, they're eating reality itself." Admiral Rodriguez studied the tactical displays with growing horror. The Void Devourers' ships were unlike anything in Confederation databases. Massive organic vessels that seemed to exist partially outside normal space-time. As she watched, one of the creatures approached a small moon and simply absorbed it. The celestial body didn't explode or break apart. It just ceased to exist. "Admiral," reported her communications officer, "I'm detecting faint signals from the inner system. The ethereal survivors are hiding in some kind of pocket dimension." Dr. Vasquez, now serving as the fleet's chief science officer, worked frantically to analyze the sensor data. "Admiral, I think I understand what we're dealing with. These Void Devourers appear to be extra-dimensional beings. They're not from our universe, they're from somewhere else entirely. Can we fight them?" "I don't know. Our weapons are designed to affect matter and energy in our dimensional framework. These things exist partially outside that framework." But even as the Confederation scientists struggled to understand their enemy, the rescue fleet was already adapting. Working together, human engineers and Zephyrian crystal shapers began modifying their weapons to fire harmonic resonance patterns that could disrupt extra-dimensional fields. The battle that followed would become legend throughout the galaxy. For the first time in Confederation history, they faced an enemy that couldn't be reasoned with, negotiated with, or even properly understood. The Void Devourers were pure hunger-given form, consuming everything they encountered without regard for intelligence, beauty, or the value of life. Captain Martinez led the first attack wave against a Void Devourer that was attempting to consume the last inhabited world in the system. Her ship's modified weapons fired streams of harmonically tuned energy that seemed to cause the creature actual pain. "All ships, concentrate fire on the lead creature," she ordered. Dr. Vasquez was right. They can be hurt by harmonic resonance. The battle raged for hours as Confederation ships used every tactic in their arsenal to drive back beings that existed beyond normal understanding. Human tactical genius combined with Zephyrian harmonic abilities and the diverse capabilities of dozens of other species to create weapons and strategies that no single civilization could have developed. In the end, it was the combined nature of the Confederation that proved decisive. The Void Devourers were beings of pure consumption, incapable of understanding cooperation or mutual aid. They couldn't comprehend an enemy that would risk everything to protect strangers, and their inability to understand Confederation tactics led to their defeat. Admiral Rodriguez watched the last Void Devourer retreat into whatever dimension it had come from, leaving behind a system that was mostly empty space but still contained one world with survivors. "Admiral," reported her communications officer, "the ethereal survivors are requesting permission to come aboard. They want to thank us personally." The ethereals, when they finally appeared on the Confederation ships, were beings of pure energy barely contained within crystalline matrices. They communicated through patterns of light that Dr. Vasquez's equipment could barely translate. "We have watched your species through the dimensional barriers," spoke Archon Kell, his form shifting between states of matter and energy. "You are the first beings we have encountered who fight not for yourselves, but for the concept of life itself." Admiral Rodriguez found herself once again in the position of explaining humanity's motivations to beings who had never encountered such concepts. "Archon Kell, where we come from, we learned that the only way to keep the universe safe is to make sure that evil never goes unanswered. And you extend this protection to beings you have never met, in regions of space you have never seen?" "That's what the Galactic Defense Confederation is for," Rodriguez replied simply. "Anyone who needs help, anywhere in the galaxy, can call on us." Archon Kell's energy pattern shifted to what Dr. Vasquez was learning to recognize as amazement mixed with gratitude. "Then we wish to join this confederation. Our abilities to perceive extra-dimensional threats may be valuable to your protective mission." As the Confederation fleet prepared to return home with their new allies, General Steele received a priority message from Confederation headquarters. The rescue of the ethereals had been monitored by civilizations throughout the galaxy, and the response was unprecedented. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving membership applications from over 200 species. Word is spreading that the Confederation will protect anyone who asks for help, regardless of distance or danger." Steele smiled as he looked out at the mixed fleet of Confederation vessels working together to evacuate ethereal survivors and establish long-range monitoring stations to watch for future extra-dimensional incursions. "Colonel Rivers, signal Confederation headquarters. Tell them we're going to need more ships." 6 months later, the Galactic Defense Confederation had grown from a small alliance between humans and Zephyrians into a massive organization spanning thousands of star systems. Species that had never cooperated before worked together to build mutual defense networks, share technology, and protect the weak from the strong. Elder Mira, now serving as the Confederation's chief diplomatic officer, stood in the Great Assembly Hall of the new Confederation capital, watching representatives from over 1,000 different species debate policy and coordinate mutual aid operations. "Admiral Rodriguez," she said to her human colleague, "do you ever wonder what would have happened if my people had never sent that first distress call?" Rodriguez considered the question while watching a group of insectoid engineers work with energy beings and crystalline entities to design new defensive technologies. "Elder Mira, I think the galaxy was ready for someone to stand up and say that innocent beings deserve protection. If it hadn't been us answering your call, it would have been something else. The universe has a way of providing what's needed. And what's needed now?" Rodriguez smiled as she watched the diverse representatives of galactic civilization working together to build a better future for all. "What's needed now is to keep doing what we're doing. Answer every call for help. protect every peaceful species, and make sure that no being in the galaxy ever has to face darkness alone. As the two leaders watched the great work of galactic cooperation continue around them, neither noticed the small figure of high crystalline Zara, now grown into a respected diplomat herself, speaking with a group of young beings from dozens of different species. Remember, Zara was telling them in the harmonic language that had become the Confederation's universal tongue for complex ideas. We are all different species, from different worlds, with different abilities. But we share one thing in common. We believe that the strong should protect the weak, that the capable should help the struggling, and that no cry for help should ever go unanswered. The young beings pulsed, chirped, hummed, and gestured their agreement in dozens of different ways, each according to their species' nature. They were the first generation to grow up in a galaxy where cooperation was stronger than conflict, where diversity was seen as strength, and where the word stranger had begun to lose its meaning. In the depths of space, monitoring stations staffed by Confederation volunteers continued to listen for distress calls from unknown civilizations, ready to answer any cry for help from any corner of the galaxy. The age of predators hunting peaceful species was ending, replaced by an era where the galaxy's most dangerous inhabitants were those who had learned that the greatest strength came not from conquest, but from the willingness to protect others. The story that had begun with a single desperate plea from a crystal world had become the foundation of a new galactic civilization, one built on the radical idea that different species could work together to create something greater than the sum of their parts. And somewhere in the vast darkness between galaxies, other voices were beginning to call for help, knowing now that in this corner of the universe, someone would always answer.